to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from Hangar 6, where sleeves are optional. Strap in. The show starts right now.
¿Cómo están, bitches? This is the Lineman Lounge. I am Mike, and the beautiful son of a bitch next to me is Evo, rocking a little bit of light today in the room, and we are going to shed some light on some awesome bets for you guys today. I'm super pumped. The Super Bowl is here. This is a year long that we have been waiting for. We got two really good fucking teams, and I am absolutely pumped. I got a lot of shit to do today. I got homework. I got to put a door back on hinges. We got people coming over. Man, but I'm pumped. I love Super Bowl parties. Evo, how's the weekend? How are you doing? I know it's really just kind of getting started for you, but how's everything going, brother? Are you as pumped for the Super Bowl? Do you think this is going to be a good game?
Hey, man, look, I think that when we got down to the final four teams in the NFL playoffs, no matter what, we were going to see a pretty good matchup. And an Eagles matchup versus a Chiefs matchup is what a lot of America wanted and a lot of America didn't want, obviously, if you look by some of the voting of who they want to win. But it should be a really good matchup, and it's going to be fun to get into. And as far as my weekend, yeah, I am just getting started. It is a little after 11 here in Arizona, which is pretty late in the day, but, I work that night shift, so I like to sleep in. So I'm just getting started. I do have chores to do. We'll see if I actually get around to them today because, I've still got Christmas lights up. Got to take those down because I took that trip to Ohio and I just put everything off. Need to do that sort of stuff, maybe mow the yard because we don't have all that snow out here like you do. It's pretty nice.
Do you have grass to mow out there? Dude, I put synthetic. I put in synthetic grass. We got rid of the rocks because I was not mowing any grass. I'm going to have to get used to that this summer out in Ohio. But yeah, I was not fucking around with grass in Arizona. It's too much of a pain in the ass out there.
So my yard, that was one of the reasons why I bought the house, was that it's secluded enough in the backyard with a lot of green. So I've got trees everywhere blocking everything off from the neighbors, other than the mountain view that I've got behind the house. And I do have 2/3 of my yard is grass and the other third is synthetic for, putting a pool or something like that on top of. But it is fully laid grass. It's not like someone went around and threw some grass seeds. So it's real nice. It's good for the one dog that I have now because I had to say goodbye to my other buddy. But it's a real nice setup there in the backyard. And look, from one grass mower now to a new grass mower over there in Ohio. I really enjoy it. It's therapeutic for me. I get to go out for like an hour, do some yard work, get a little bit of sun, some vitamin D, drink a beer or two, and jam to some tunes. It's actually therapeutic for me. So it's something that as a kid and younger when I was mowing, didn't really like as much because it's just another chore. Now it's a moment for me to get outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight, and just enjoy a cold beer.
Yeah, so I am not a fan of the grass mowing. I will do a riding mower and some beers all day. But if I had to choose a chore, go shovel some snow or go mow the grass, I'm choosing shoveling snow. I much prefer it. Yeah, give me the snow, man. It's an easier process. It's not, dude. I don't like the fucking heat. I've spent 18 months in countries where it's entirely too goddamn hot all of the goddamn time in Afghanistan and Iraq. So fuck the heat. Just give me a little nice cool day. If it snows, fuck it. I'll toss on an extra jacket, another layer. Give me that over the mowing the grass. But beer in either one of those activities, big plus.
I haven't had to shovel. I haven't been in Minnesota for a while, so I haven't had to shovel much recently. But I enjoyed shoveling when I was actually younger there. I did enjoy that, so maybe I would enjoy it even more as an adult. I don't know.
All right.
Either way, we are here the Saturday before the Super Bowl. We've had a lot happen over this past week, whether it's some coaching hires, NFL honors, the finalization of the Pro Bowl games, things like that. And we definitely want to get in that today. But we got a guest with us today.
We sure do, and I'm very pumped to have this guy on the show. We've tried to have him on in the past. Things happened. He was not feeling well, but we have got him today, and he is a fucking dude. So he does a lot of stuff. He covers the Cleveland Browns for the Browns Wire. He's the co-founder of Network 216. If you're out in the Cleveland area, check those guys out. They do a great job. I love a lot of the content they put out on their podcast network. Also, he does a podcast on that show, The Barking Brown Show, with friend of our show, Nick Carnes. So let's bring this guy in. We're going to bring in Jacob Roach. Brother, how you doing? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Dude, I'm doing fantastic. I got to point out that I agree with the grass mowing being therapeutic, man. That is my time to get out there. I listen to Brown's podcast while I do it and catch up on all that crap and get out there and get it done. So I'm with you guys 100%, and I'm happy to be here.
We're having some real daddy vibes here today.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hey, daddy vibes, I'm always good with. Dad vibes, you get a couple, but daddy vibes, and you're in the business now.
Now, I've seriously considered, I do currently do my mowing in Crocs.
Oh, okay.
Definitely a dad move. But I've thought about going out and buying some New Balances, doing some New Balances, because I figure I just need to have that cred when I'm walking around, some grass stained New Balances. That would be the way to go, right?
Yeah, I mean, you buy them immediately and then you mow the grass so you have the grass stains.
So they're immediately green. Yeah. I got a story for you. This is real quick. A mowing story. I think you guys will find this hilarious. So I work at Ohio University. I do event parking and some other things among there. Last year, during my first year, I had a very intense Karen situation during one of the football games. And the best part was her name was Karen. That is 100% factual. So anyway, it was a very stressful day, and I got home and the grass needed mowed. So I came in, and I have some interesting neighbors across the street. So I put a wife beater on, took her Corona, went out into the yard, and just was mowing the grass. I actually hit a low spot, which brought my mower to a stop, and the beer flipped up in the air, and I caught it. And I looked over, and my neighbor was looking me right in the eye, and I said, "Woohoo, brother! Didn't fill us, drop us." Oh fuck, I'm messing up here. I screamed at him, "Woohoo! I didn't spill a drop," and he just went, "Hell yeah, brother!" And that was my greatest mowing story of all time.
I absolutely appreciate that, especially with the wife beater aspect. Fuck sleeves, so I'm all on board with that. But,
very nice.
Guys, are we ready to start diving into the wild fucking week that we have had leading up to the Super Bowl? Because there is a ton of stuff to go over. And if it's okay with you guys, I want to go back and I want to revisit last week and how the Pro Bowl went.
Yeah.
Because there's big news that happened for Cleveland Browns fans. Jacob and I were very, very concerned for a little bit. And there was an interesting vibe to the way this year's Pro Bowl went. I love the fact that they did the games. Mm-hmm. I wish that they would have done only games, though. The flag football thing, to me, I don't need that. Just give me the quarterback competitions like we had in the late 90s, early 2000s. Show me guys trying to throw the ball 80 yards. I want to see the target challenges. I want to see all of that stuff, but I don't need a flag football game. Where are you guys standing on that?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, so we kind of talked a little bit last show about, some of the earlier events and stuff that we watched. And now that we kind of have a holistic view over the whole thing, I enjoyed the direction that they're going. It's still not a great product yet. It's probably better than the previous Pro Bowl game that we saw. Yeah, the flag football is definitely kitschy out there. And I know apparently like the pro flag football leagues of America were not happy with some of the rules and stuff that they used because they adapted them to what the NFL wanted its game to be. I think they need to continue trying to advance it and do something else. All the small little mini games and stuff that they did definitely were cool. Some of them not as much. I mean, the water balloon toss between like the linemen and stuff, all of them were basically like, this is dumb.
It was field day for fucking third graders.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was cool in some aspects. I do think that they need to advance it. they want to, bridge between having kids have something fun to watch and having adults have something fun to watch. But to me, the kids stuff is more like your Nickelodeon games, which I think they should do way more of. They should be doing those Nickelodeon games where people are getting the slime on them all the time. They should be doing that a lot more often.
Every game that Trubisky ever fucking starts again, they should be on Nickelodeon.
Oh, is he going to start any more games? He's out there in Pittsburgh getting
not punched. With Pittsburgh, not with Pittsburgh, but maybe another team.
But overall, I like the direction that they're going. They still have a lot of work to do. It's nice that they made some sort of improvement there. Overall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that. The one thing I agree, I agree with everything you said. That I just want to piggyback a little bit more on some of the game aspect of it. Can we not jump over walls and do stupid shit? Because that's how Myles Garrett got hurt. He's jumping over these walls and stuff. He dislocates his toe. Now, I just put out an article. He was carrying dudes around during the Levitard show yesterday, so he's clearly fine. But I still had a little bit of a heart attack and for a little bit of time where I was freaking out after he dislocates his toe and limps off the field. It's like the whole point was to make it to where we don't see guys get hurt. And I think that the field day for third graders is probably the best way I've heard it described. I think that was you hit the nail on the head with that one. I think it needs to continue to evolve, be fun. Add more Nickelodeon games. I would watch the hell out of more Nickelodeon games. I actually watched the Pro Bowl games on Disney XD on accident because I have Hulu plus live TV, so it'll give me some things that are on and I won't even be scrolling. I just click on it. And so I watched it on there. I understand getting ready to make it more kid friendly. I'm all about that, but let's just make sure it's not dumb.
Right. Well, and that's always one of the things that's scary for me is like these Pro Bowl games and in the Pro Bowls in the past, you always have that opportunity for your top level players to get hurt. We see it all the time in the NFL. You have non-contact injuries, and those are always the worst ones where guys are tearing their ACLs and stuff like that. You've got a Bill Grammatica back in the past, in 1978, jumping up after a field goal and tearing his ACL. Now you've got Myles Garrett, breaking a toe, doing some dumb shit.
Ultimate Warrior style, obstacle course for
there's
no fucking
always
reason.
that fear. There's always that fear that something's going to happen. I'm out there watching JJ do stuff, Jettis, and I'm like, just don't get hurt. I don't care if you win anything. Just don't get hurt.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
absolutely
it's tough to balance that for the NFL because they're well aware of it as well. That injuries and stuff could happen. That's why most of the stuff is done with kid padding on. But things like the kick-tack-toe and stuff like that, that's a little bit more interesting to me because you're actually seeing like true skills from these players to see if they can like kick on a dime or some of the throwing skills competitions. I would like to see different player positions branch into so have your offensive linemen go out there and do the passing drills.
Yes.
Or the kicking drills and stuff like that. That's a little bit more what I want to see because that's where the funny moments are going to come from. And then you might see some of these guys that maybe they kicked in high school because if you're the best athlete on the field, you're the best athlete on the field and they're going to have you do whatever.
You get Justin Reed in a kicking contest against other, skill position players. Give me Justin Reed 1,000 times out of 1,000. That stuff is fun. And also I love the kick-tack-toe just because it kind of plays into that thing that we've been talking about on a way to settle double overtime in the NFL. No more fucking ties, kickoff. I want to see the shootout style kickers start at the 40 and we go till somebody fucking misses.
Yeah, Roach, that's one of our thoughts of how to adjust the NFL overtime rules is that instead of just ending things, you end up going to an NHL style shootout, except for it's down to the kickers. And I think that would be unique and it would put a lot of importance on those kickers. It would be interesting.
Fun I like viewer. It. I like it a lot. I hate the NFL overtime, so I'm with you guys 100% on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we also
still got to find a way to be improved. Now, what they're doing this year is better, especially in the playoffs. I like the fact that each team is going to get a possession. I know some of our watchers, Joe Rockstar specifically, does not like this. Just fucking do better on defense. He is a big defense guy, but people tune in to watch the offense. That's what the NFL is going to try to sell is the offense.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the rules that we have now.
And an interesting note about the rules, we had Goodell come out, this week saying that he thought that this was our best year of officiating ever. Now, I'll step back and say I understand that he probably has to say something like that, but also, if you're gonna piss on my face, don't tell me it's raining.
Yeah.
It's not the best year in officiating ever. If anything, it's the worst because you've got more visibility and everyone can just see how bad it's been. They need to really truly just come out and recognize, like, yeah, we've got issues. This is how we're going to try to fix them. Or these are our actions that we're going to take. Let's see some actual movement on this.
Well, Roger should read the room, Roger.
Yeah.
Everybody can fucking see that this was terrible. The officiating was so bad this year that a completely asinine story made national headlines that the NFL is rigged. The officiating was so bad that people believe that the NFL is rigged because of the atrocious miscalls that have happened. That's how fucking bad the officiating was. Sorry, Jacob, go ahead.
Well,
when I saw this comment, I was like, what the fuck is he talking about? It's never been worse.
And the worst part about it is they're borderline going to make it worse. I don't know if you guys saw this story where they're considering banning hip tackles. And I understand that it's what broke Tony Pollard's leg. Like, I get that. And I've seen other running backs and stuff. I think it was former Browns preseason star Davion Davis made a comment about being hurt from a hip tackle and that sort of thing. I think sometimes there is animosity between players and they do try to hurt other players. I think that sometimes in the heat of the moment, they let emotions get the best. But you look at hip tap, how in the heck can you ban that? Like, you're going to get so many penalties. We talk about, like, this is why you couldn't challenge pass interference after 1 year. They had to get rid of that because it was such a subjective thing that you were putting too much in the ref's hands and where it wasn't black and white and you're making them make judgment calls. And that's exactly what you do if you would make hip tackles. Already people are pissed off, and the first thing that comes out about the potential officiating change in the offseason is to make it even harder to play defense. And they're just like, yeah, no, best it's ever been.
Yeah, and this is something that we talked about last week was that hip tackle thing. And it's, having played football a large part of my life, doing a little bit of coaching, same with Mike, we've never been trained to do hip tackles. Now, the alligator roll and stuff like that might have been something a little more in the past, which is a bit of a dirty tackle, but it's not something that's prevalent as much anymore. It just kind of goes back to, like you said, Tony Pollard got hurt, but I think the Patrick Mahomes stuff, now he kind of got rolled up on. But still, when it affects a top level quarterback, someone that is the NFL brand, that's when the NFL is like, oh, maybe we should do something about this to prevent this. I.e. Aaron Rodgers from years past, where we've got different quarterback rules and how we can hit him and stuff like that. It's annoying because at the end of the day, football is meant to be a violent sport.
Yeah,
guys will get hurt. We want to prevent those long-term career-ending type injuries and things that are dirty that don't necessarily benefit the game. But at the end of the day, football is about hitting the guy in front of you. And these things are going to happen.
Yeah. And we talked about this last week, Evo, and obviously, Jacob, you didn't get to hear this, but this is not something that I have ever been coached. It's not something that I have ever coached. It's not even something that I've ever heard about being coached. This is something that happens as part of a play. You're out of position because nobody's running up saying, let me put my head on the wrong side of this tackle and try to arm tackle you and then throw my fucking legs out in a prayer. You're trying to make a play. It's not a coached technique. So I don't know how you officiate that out of the game other than saying, you guys are now going to do completely perfect form tackles every time you tackle, or you run the risk of being penalized.
Or else.
Which ruins the fucking game even more. So I completely agree. There's a high possibility if stuff like that comes out, the officiating will be even worse next year. And I thought this is the worst that I've ever seen. It was right there with that ref strike season where they had the touchback touchdown.
Yeah, the hip tackle to me would be very much akin to the rule changes for hits on quarterbacks where And we see this a lot of times where a guy will end up getting a roughing the passer penalty because after the ball's been thrown, like their arm happens to come down and hit the quarterback in the face, or they're a little bit too top shelf on them, and it doesn't look like intentional. It just happens to be part of the play, bang bang, and they happen to hit them just in the wrong spot unintentionally. It's not a targeting type of thing, but they're going to get that personal foul for roughing the passer. Those plays always upset me because like it's a difference between, oh, this guy happenstance made a mistake, to he could have done something better but he didn't, to he's intentionally targeting a guy. Like there should be differences in that, and we see it where guys will, you know, cost their team 15 yards because they accidentally have a forearm hit the quarterback in the head, you know, while they're trying to get to him. We're talking about, you know, fractions of seconds on plays here where they're, you know, they can barely control their bodies while they're, you know, throwing themselves at another dude. But we're going to see more of those instances where it's like the guy didn't intentionally try to do anything wrong here, and now he's cost his team a whole bunch of yards. And that's what I don't want to see in the game, is those bang bang plays somehow becoming a normalcy of, you're not allowed to do that. You should have known better.
You're not allowed to play football the way football is played. This might be a circumstance where I have some issues with officiating on both the NFL and the college level, but I assume based on what you guys have talked about that you kind of agree that the college has overtime better than the NFL. Their rules are better on that end because we don't get
better.
Yeah, because we don't get ties. Well, I think initially when targeting entered college football that it was very bang bang. I didn't like it the way it was, but now they review everything. And that might be one of the situations where they actually do it right for some of these big plays that I think the NFL should do. You don't want to review every freaking play. I understand that. Although I will admit this expedited review process that's been happening in college foot or in the NFL playoffs has been really nice because they're like, oh, we just got buzzed down. We're going to call this, that we're going to do this and that. I think the NFL on some of these plays where they think there could be harmful intent, you know, like the targeting and things like that, implement it. Like if you really want to try to keep the game, quote unquote, safer, then implement something like college football where they're actually doing something that I think has made a difference when it comes to like the targeting calls.
Yeah, I definitely agree that that expedited replay has been nice. They do need to clean it up a little bit. Obviously, there was a situation with, you know, Mahomes early in the playoffs where the play happened and then it didn't happen, and then they get another chance and everything, and that's where a lot of the issues started to come into play of like, oh, this is rigged. If you have a situation where you think, hey, maybe something happened on this play, we got to check it real quick, buzz down to the refs, say, hey, pause things for a second. We're going to get you an answer in 15 seconds whether or not we need a deeper look at this. Obviously needs to be cleaned up, and those are all high points to shoot for. But overall, I like the expedited process of reviews.
Yeah, I mean, the review process is better. I do think, and I'm very excited for this. So I'm not typically a spring football guy like those other leagues. I don't typically watch because the product is obviously not as good because the quarterback play is pretty terrible in those leagues. And that's the reason that the football is not good. It's not that there's dudes on those teams that can't play. There's a lot of skill position guys that get an opportunity in the NFL, but the quarterback play is so bad. However, one perk of those leagues is the ability to try out different rules, different ways of logistically sending stuff up and down to referees that we don't ever get to see in the NFL. And then the NFL can be like, oh, we would like to try this thing. It's almost like their thing, but it's not quite. We came up with it because we're the NFL. And I appreciate that about those extra leagues.
Yeah.
Isn't there a partnership between the XFL, the Rocks XFL, and the NFL to actually do that with I believe now, granted, the XFL was getting rebooted like 2 years ago after all COVID started to pass and stuff like that. But I thought I read somewhere that there's a partnership between the XFL and the NFL to do that this season.
I vaguely remember that as well, that they were going to work hand in hand with testing some things out and having it be a little bit more of a test bed. I'm not positive. I'd have to do some more research on that, but I do remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, I remember hearing, I don't know if anything ever came to fruition on that. Hopefully that does happen and we can start to see an improvement of, the way things are done logistically to, speed up games and make sure that we're getting calls right and we're not having, miraculous catches by a receiver that wasn't a catch that leads to a touchdown. Not that it would have mattered in that game anyways, because another team didn't have a quarterback, but we want to get those things right, especially when we're talking playoff time.
Yeah. Now we could definitely do a whole show just on officiating. Maybe we do during the off season because we got to fill some airtime. But if you guys are okay with it, I'm willing to move on. We can start getting into
I am
NFL
ready as well.
honors.
Yes, I kind of figured you wanted to go here because waiting for you to just start jacking it under the table when we get to the offensive player of the year.
I mean, I kind of knew that was coming, but I'll do a little quick rundown of what we've got here, your winners and nominees for different spots. So the Salute to Service winner this year was Coach Ron Rivera, with Hayden Hurst and George Kittle following him up. Stop me if any of these seem wrong to you, by the way, if you think that someone was snubbed in any of these spots. League MVP was Patrick Mahomes, with Justin Jefferson and Joe Burrow being the two runners up.
Really? The two runners up there?
Well, okay. They're in Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. I missed that.
I'll say Jalen has got to be in there somewhere.
Yeah, he's definitely in there. The Walter Payton Man of the Year award went to Dak Prescott, the only award that he was really deserving of this year, I suppose. Your Offensive Player of the Year was Justin Jefferson, with Tyreek Hill, Jalen Hurts, and Patrick Mahomes being the other candidates there. Head Coach of the Year, Brian Daboll. The runners up there were Sean McDermott, Doug Peterson, Kyle Shanahan, and Nick Sirianni, all who I think are deserving. I'm a little bit upset.
It's an interesting name missing from that list.
Yeah, Kevin O'Connell wasn't added in there. I get it to some extent, but I really thought that he was going to have a shot at least being in the running for Coach of the Year, but oh well. Your Comeback Player of the Year, without a doubt, Geno Smith won that one. Had a fantastic season. Saquon, Christian McCaffrey were the runners up for that. Defensive Rookie of the Year, something that was called on the show by yours truly, Sauce Gardner.
Yeah,
got that one. And Tariq Woolen and Aiden Hutchinson were your other two runners up there. I believe you picked Hutch as your guy, Mike.
I did pick Hutch as my pick. He came on later in the year, just not enough numbers. I mean, and Sauce was the best corner in the NFL this year, so I don't know how you don't pick him for that spot.
Yeah, Sauce was just absolutely ridiculous.
So good. Your Offensive Rookie of the Year was Garrett Wilson, followed by Kenneth Walker and Brock Purdy. This one was a little bit more of a surprise to me. I know Garrett Wilson had a good year. I didn't think it was as explosive as even a Kenneth Walker. I thought Kenneth Walker's impact on his team was greater for a majority of the year. The injury kind of probably set him back a little bit. But we did some voting on the Facebook page of who we thought the Rookie of the Year was, and I believe Brock Purdy came out on top on that one. And while it was definitely a smaller sample size, like, the impact to his team was tremendous and tangible. I mean, we saw how the team was affected when he went down in the playoffs. They became a dud.
Yeah, I thought that Brock Purdy was probably going to win based on the position he played and how well they were doing. I like Kenneth Walker. I thought he had a bigger impact. But the fact that Garrett Wilson got this, I think, has a lot to do with the fact that the quarterback play in New York was absolutely atrocious, sans a couple of really good games from Mike White, and he still put up 1,100 yards. To be able to put up those kinds of numbers with the absolute abysmal quarterback play, I think is probably what got him over the hump there.
And we can only expect that it's just going to blow up for him going forward now that he's got Nathaniel Hackett out there helping coach. And
maybe Aaron Rodgers, assuming he doesn't retire because he doesn't want to go to the Jets.
Yep, and that's probably a whole nother offseason show as well, the Aaron Rodgers news. Your Defensive Player of the Year, Nick Bosa. We know Joe Rockstar is going to like that, followed by Micah Parsons and Chris Jones. I had picked Micah Parsons as probably my Defensive Player of the Year, but Bosa he was absolutely dominant the whole year. I can't discredit that at all. Your Air Player of the Year was Joe Burrow, with Allen and Mahomes as your runners up. Your Art Rooney award winner was Calais Campbell, with a whole slew of other guys being looked at there. Assistant Coach of the Year, D'Amico Ryans, who's now the head coach down there for the Texans. That makes a lot of sense. Ben Johnson, Shane Steichen were the runners up there. Also guys that are getting looked at for head coaching gigs right now still in Indy and Arizona. The Deacon Jones Award winner, Nick Bosa. And the ground player of the year was Josh Jacobs, who had just a phenomenal year at running back. I thought not that he needed to be a comeback player of the year type nominee, because, he's always been pretty solid, but he just kind of blew up this year, which is great because, contract coming around the corner.
Well, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option, and he just shoved it down their throats. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with the coaching staff that he has. I'm so glad that he basically shoved it up their ass, because they're going to be looking for a head coach again next year. I have no doubt, because they're not happy. They would have fired him this year had they had the funds to actually go out and pay another coach. But if you guys know anything about the NFL and the way it works, the Raiders are fucking cash poor always. They have the money in their cap space, but they don't have cash over cap. That's why they have to trade away their really good talent. They are not a crazy independently wealthy family like we see with, our owner, who is buying 25% of the fucking Bucks. Like,
yeah.
Hey, I mean, it's getting spent on haircuts and stuff like that, like
there is no way he pays somebody to do that to his fucking head. That his mom puts a bowl on his head still and just fucking lines him up all the way around. That is the only way that we are sticking with that haircut.
I feel like he has to do it to himself, because it's not even. So, like, I think dude's just hoping he gets it as he does it around his head.
I would have to look it up here, but I'm pretty sure that he has had the same barber for like 30 years, and he flies the guy out to wherever he's at to give him haircuts. And honestly, like, that's got to be that barber's only client, because, like, who the fuck else is going to go to him and be like, I want that?
Yeah, let me get that Davis. Like, no, I'm not happening.
But the Mark Davis special looks like a 5-year-old who just got a pair of clippers and screwed with themselves. Yeah, it's it should have happened this year. If money wasn't an option, we'd be seeing a new head coach out there in Vegas. But for those Raiders fans who watch the show, they get another year of probably mediocrity, unless, again, you see someone like an Aaron Rodgers head out there, and that'll be an interesting dynamic.
Also a very good possibility, because Devontae's out there. There's reports that he's already bought a house in Vegas. I have no
down
hope.
The street from Devontae in his neighborhood.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to matter. I mean, he's going on a dark retreat, so he's definitely getting ayahuasca'd up, and he's probably just moving out to Vegas to just do all of the drugs.
That's my favorite meme that I put out there this week on the Facebook page was that Aaron Rodgers and Gollum share the same thing. They both like to be in dark spaces and only have one ring. So we'll see how it goes for him. He is definitely one of the weirdest oddities out there in the NFL. He's our, flat earth type of guy.
So Jacob, since this is your first time on the show, we just kind of say whatever the fuck we want. So feel free to jump in here and bury anybody you feel like at any point. We're not kind people sometimes.
So I had a conversation this week about Aaron Rodgers' darkness retreat, and in all the years I've talked football with my dad, I don't think I've ever really heard him just so defeated and have nothing to say than when I described this retreat. And I was like, this is what Rodgers and Rodgers came out and said, I'll make my decision afterwards. That's what he told Pat McAfee. Like, I'm going to go on this darkness retreat. I'll make my decision. We'll go from there. And I told my dad what this was. And that man just goes, God. And that was just the whole conversation. And I'm just like, I have never, like, my dad always like, he'll like, that's stupid or something like that. He's always got something to say. And that left him speechless. And I'm in awe of who Rodgers has become the last 5 years. And at this point, I just don't think he will ever do anything that shocks me anymore.
That's a fair point. Now, what Mike was saying, how we just kind of say whatever, as a caveat to that, we do kind of have to be careful, make sure that we say allegedly for a lot of things, especially if we refer to Brett Favre or anything like that.
We should definitely
ask about the Brett Favre thing. Yeah.
Allegedly,
I hate the Packers and I hate their quarterbacks, so I love trashing on them. And so the Brett Favre stuff and the Aaron Rodgers stuff has just been a gold mine for me. But apparently, we got to be real careful with old Brett. You know, we don't have that big of a audience yet, where we're probably not on his radar. But just in case, we have to be real careful with Brett Favre around here, because apparently he's just gunning.
He's just suing everybody.
I'll ask Pat if we can, co-defense, because the fact that he's trying to sue Pat McAfee, and those guys are fantastic. That's like their thing, allegedly. The fact that this is happening is wild. You're going to sue somebody for calling you out for stealing millions of dollars, allegedly, from poor people.
Did you see his response up here in Phoenix? Pat's out in Phoenix right now, and I watched his little 8-minute response or whatever, where he, kind of spoke about it publicly for the first time, other than posting on Twitter the Dave Chappelle show skit of him in court holding up a sign that says FIF, plead the fifth. He basically said, I've talked to a whole bunch of legal experts and stuff like that who are basically saying it's a joke. That he was told by or threatened by the lawyers, said, hey, anything that you've ever said with Brett Favre's name in it, take it down off the internet, remove it, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, this must be a joke. Someone's ribbing with me. And then he got another response at like 8:00 at night saying you have until Wednesday to remove all the videos and issue a public apology to Brett Favre. And he's like, nah, it's not happening. And then he's like, yeah, I've talked to all these lawyers that have said it's basically a joke. And he's like, so I've decided not to retain legal counsel. And he's like, we're just going to let it ride because this is a joke.
Let it ride.
So he's going to court without anything, just to be like, this is dumb. And he's like, I'll probably have H.O.F be sitting there next to me like my defense attorney or something like that.
I hope he puts Zito in a suit, and Zito is his legal counsel. I could not think of a better way for that court case to go.
I think they should team up with Barstool and have like Portnoy out there or something like that. Like, just bring out the whole.
I don't know if Dave and Pat get along anymore with their fallout when Pat left Barstool.
Probably not, but still, I mean, it would be funny just to get kind of like you've got your legit sports media, and then you've got the guys that are kind of ancillary but a lot of fun, like the Barstool Sports, like the Pat McAfee Show, things like that, and just kind of get a crew out there of people who are kind of like, hey, we have fun with this stuff, and this is a joke, so we're gonna make this into a joke.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
And it clearly is a joke, dude. Like, you can't have defamation of character over something you did.
Yeah, no, that's just me calling you out for being a shitty person. I didn't accuse you were actually a shitty person, allegedly.
Well, he's not. He is a shitty person. Why he's a shitty person? You know what? That's up for debate.
While we do this, do we still have this banner? The dummy thick idiot banner. There we go. Let's pop this up there. Listen, we're not licensed professionals. Conjecture by a couple of dummy thick idiots. We don't know for sure. It's all alleged, but fuck Brett Favre. And
yeah, it's a fun part of the NFL offseason is seeing how former and current Packers quarterbacks like to keep the spotlight on themselves and do funny shit. But anyways,
I want to hop back into the NFL honors real quick. Sure. So, and maybe I'm just being a negative bitch about this, but the comeback player of the year. I love what happened for Geno this year. It's fantastic. I cannot wait to see him get another contract and go out and try to perform. But when I think of a comeback, you would have had to have a come up to start with. And Gino never had a come up. He just was like, hey, all of a sudden I kind of understand how to play football. I'm good with Gino winning this, but when I thought comeback player of the year, Gino wasn't the guy I picked just because he never was up to come back up to it.
Yeah, I also think that it always felt like a guy coming back from injury to me was what the award was for. Like,
Right.
Like Christian McCaffrey is who I would have given it to. Just in that situation, that's definitely who I thought it should have won it. And of course, he was one of the finalists. I understand that. But I mean, Gino, what did he do? He sucked. He sucked until now. And then he, like you said, he figured it out. Great. Love it. I didn't even know he was still in the NFL until last year when he came into that primetime game when Russell Wilson. I tweeted it. I was like, I was today years old when I figured out Geno Smith was still in the NFL. And good for him. I love the underdog story. I'm a Browns fan. I love that. But when I think of comeback player of the year, I agree. That's not what I think of.
Yeah, and it does make a lot of sense when you put it in perspective like that. I mean, if the bets are out already, I'm sure DeMar Hamlin's going to be your comeback player of the year next year, right? I mean, he doesn't have to do anything other than step onto a field. Yeah, he's probably looking at that, and it's because of the injury stuff, right? With Gino, I guess, yeah, you make a really good point. Both of you do that. He just was he was a second-round pick. He played for the Jets. He was destined to be terrible, and somehow he overcame that. That's the comeback part of it to me, I suppose. But he didn't really do anything in the NFL other than this year to really be notable. So it makes a lot of sense. And yeah, it is traditionally someone coming back from injury. So it's a good points.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Very, very happy for Gino. Like, I am pumped for the guy because Gino is a guy that I thought was out of the league, like Jacob said, or it was just, middling around, like hoping to try to find another contract. Had no idea that he had that kind of gas in him to come out and play as well as he did. Now, obviously, there were struggles along the way, but when you consider his career projections after year one with the Jets, you're like, oh, this guy's done. Like, he is going to absolutely tank out. Second round pick. We would have liked him to succeed. We're not expecting him to succeed. And then it was terrible. It's like, okay, well, bye, Gino. Good luck. I hope you do well in other aspects of your life. But now, like, great story. Just not what I think of when I think of comeback player of the year.
And there's probably no one more happy about this than Gino because he probably thought his earning potential was going to continue to trend downwards, but he just earned himself a great paycheck. He's probably going to earn himself more than he's gotten in his whole career combined just in this offseason. So good for him. It'll be interesting. That's another thing. We're going to have a lot of talks here going into the coming weeks and months about NFL free agency coming up and the draft and whatnot. But it's going to be really interesting to see what the Seahawks end up doing with the quarterback spot up there. A lot of people are thinking that they're going to try to re-sign him, but he might ask for too much money. And at that point, you've got a real high pick in the draft. You could go after one of those top-end quarterbacks. So that'll be part of that really interesting quarterback shuffle that's going to happen this offseason. And I'm honestly excited to talk about that.
If I'm Seattle, I am re-signing him to a no more than 3-year deal. Maybe 3 years with one what is it? Fucking waiverable year or whatever the hell they call it now.
Void year or an option.
A void year, because that gives me a year to groom a quarterback. And then if we don't get the guy that we want or whatever, I think it's a very interesting dynamic that they have up there with Drew Lock. Drew Lock is on the exact same trajectory that Geno Smith was in his career. Was a middle round pick, came in, did not perform well, jettisoned off the team, and is now watching a guy do exactly the same thing that happened to him, find a spot and succeed. It could be really, really good for Drew Lock. I don't know if it will be because I think they'll try to find another guy, but I think you got to retain Geno. Otherwise, all of your eggs are in that quarterback basket. Great year to need a quarterback, but it's still the draft. We have no idea what any of these fucking guys are.
They have the cap to do it, to bring him back on a reasonable deal. Now, if he's going to try to shoot for, more of that top end stuff, that we're seeing from quarterbacks, not going to be worth it. But if you're talking like 18 to 20 mil average or something like that, that's still starter money. But he also, I mean, he was a considered a top end backup type, guy. That's really good backup money. You have the safety of knowing that you have him, and you do 2 to 3 years. So that way, if you get a quarterback this year, it's not going to hurt if you put Geno on the bench in a year or two to start the rookie. But also, if you don't draft a guy this year, you still have a little bit of leg room to work on a quarterback next year or the year after, and allow them time to be groomed and built up while you still have a stable quarterback in Geno. The only scary thing is we do have a history of Geno Smith. He has been very bad. And maybe this was the one strike of lightning. And is he going to regress? I would assume that there's going to be a regression closer to the mean, maybe not all the way back to what he was before in the coming years. But at least he's stable. And way more stable than anyone, I think, could have ever projected, because we all thought that Seattle was going to just be a dumpster fire this year. And they backed their way into the playoffs. So.
And yet they still have a really high pick, and it's not theirs. And that's my favorite part. I want just one good, bold prediction out of me, because I love to do this. Geno ends up in Carolina.
Ooh.
I think it's a 1 year, like you said, 18 to 20 to try to make sure. And they want it as insurance, I think, because Carolina, I've talked to some guys down in Carolina that have said, and this is common sense, they're going to try to trade up. They're going to try to trade up, and they're going to get either Levis, Young, or Stroud. I don't think they'll get up high enough to get Young, because I think the Colts will get Young at number 1. But I think he could be signed for like 20 mil to be the starter. Even if they do draft somebody, he becomes a bridge guy, which is exactly what Jacoby Brissett's going to get. Jacoby Brissett's going to get a bridge contract somewhere, and I think ultimately Carolina is where Geno goes.
Well, since we brought up Jacoby, I want to see him back in Cleveland. I want him back. I know.
He's going to the Jets.
Jacoby is probably going to be one of the more sought after bridge type quarterbacks. Yeah. I see Arizona as an option. I even see Tampa as an option. Jacoby, what he did this year was enough to show a team that, okay, we can run with this guy for 6 weeks or more.
Or fucking, 13, whatever the fuck it ends up being.
Absolutely. And Jacoby is going to earn himself some decent change this year for what he did. And he's going to price himself out of what you guys are going to be able to afford there in Cleveland. I think the Geno to Carolina is interesting. I don't know if it would be a 1 year, because I think if you're going to talk 18, 20 million, Seattle will probably be willing to pay that and possibly do even more than 1 year. If you're gonna go to Carolina and I'm Geno, I'm looking for 2 to 3 years, because or if I'm doing 1 year, I want more than the 20 mil. I'm talking 25 fully guaranteed or something like that, because I'm giving up other options for a longer earning potential if I were to go somewhere else, like stay with Seattle.
Geno earned himself a multi-year contract, so if he's going to take a 1 year, he's going to want more money, or at least almost all of it guaranteed, I think, because his earning potential has never been higher.
Carolina doesn't make sense as one of those spots that he definitely could go to, with having Frank Reich out there. He does good work with quarterbacks, and he's probably going to want to take one of these guys, early. They are going to probably try to trade up and maneuver to get one of those top 3, or if you want to, top 4, add Anthony Richardson in there, because he is climbing hardcore and getting into some of our draft stuff later on. He's actually one of my favorite quarterbacks in the draft now that I've been doing a lot more draft research. I think that he has the highest ceiling. But
we're way off on that, you and I.
And I'm going to see if I can work on you with it.
We'll see.
But
you guys tried to work on me on fucking old boy out in New York too.
Wilson.
Yeah, Zach. You guys were like, oh, he's gonna be good. Look at the arm talent. It's like, no. I've been. I will beat that drum until the day he is done. I was so impossibly right about Zach Wilson.
True. But I think that Reich is going to want to get one of those young guys, but he doesn't want to throw him in the fire right away. So it does make sense for him to find a good bridge starter that they can start to build a team around while developing this young quarterback and not just throw him in the fire right away. So a Geno Smith would be probably one of those North Stars to go for as far as the bridge style quarterbacks out there.
All right. Anybody got anything else on NFL honors? Or are we ready to start talking some Hall of Fame? Because I know, Evo, you're pumped about your boy Jettis getting Offensive Player of the Year. He absolutely deserves it. I thought he should have got a little higher in the MVP because he was fantastic. I think the one game against Jair Alexander did hurt him a little bit because he did get shut down.
We saw that more than once. I mean, against the Eagles and Darius Slay, he also didn't have a ton of production either. It's tough when you're rolling out there with more or less one wide receiver. Adam Thielen wasn't what he was this year. KJ Osborne came on a little bit more towards the end of the year, and then obviously getting Hawkinson helped out a lot at tight end. But when you're getting double, triple covered, it can be tough to have that production. Honestly, I'm very happy for JJ to have gotten that Offensive Player of the Year. I wouldn't have been surprised if he didn't get it, because some of those quarterbacks this year just played their ass off. I would have been really upset if Tyreek Hill got it instead of him, because Tyreek had a great year, but I don't think it stacks up in comparison. But honestly, I thought that one of the other quarterbacks, like a Jalen Hurts, would have been deserving as well, just with what they did for their team. But I'm super happy that Jettis got that. But yeah, I'm ready to move on. We can go start talking about the Hall of Fame class that just was inducted.
And this is we'll be inducted. Fantastic class. The guy I'm naming right off the top, I had no doubts this man was a first ballot Hall of Famer. He is the first lineman in NFL history. Joe Thomas was going to walk into Canton no matter what. I don't care who else was on this list. He is one of the top tackles of all time. He was in consideration for that list that they came out with on NFL Network with Bill Belichick for being the best left tackle ever. It was no surprise to me that he was instantly walking into Canton. Jacob, I know that you are a massive Browns fan. You've covered them for quite a while. And this guy is everything Cleveland could have ever asked for. I'm surprised that people are like, oh my God, can you believe how bad his record was? Well, yeah, he played on really bad fucking football teams, but was consistently the best left tackle in football every year that he was in the NFL. He didn't do it with physical dominance. He was just so damn efficient with everything that he did. His hand placement, his ability to vertical drop. I mean, this is the Lineman Lounge. We love line play. You do teach tape for young linemen on how to vertical set, and you show them fucking Joe Thomas, because there was nobody better in the NFL at a vertical set than left tackle Joe Thomas. So I'm pumped that he's going in. How are you feeling? I know the city of Cleveland's pumped about this. This is our first guy since the expansion era going in.
His kick step, like as he did that vertical set, like you talk about, I think it's the best I've ever seen in my life. Now, granted, there may be some before him that I didn't see or anything, but you could always just watch Joe, and that left leg would just kick out, and you would go, if for some reason it wasn't seamless, you go, okay, this might be a bad rep from him. But you could see from it, if you just watch his left leg, you're like, yeah, nobody's getting past him on this play. He's got it to perfection on there. I actually saw someone argue, and I think you guys would think this was funny, that he shouldn't be a first ballot. This was the day of, too. This was Thursday. And they're like, I doubt he gets in because you have to be in truly elite category to be a first ballot. And I'm like, yeah, and I think he is. His exact tweet was, besides all those all pros, what does he have?
That's all pro. You're the best at your position in the entire NFL.
Until he gets hurt, until he tears that tricep that inevitably ended his career, he was in the Pro Bowl all 10 years prior to that. He had 6 first-team All-Pros, and I believe there's a couple of second teams where he was real close.
I think 2.
Yeah, so he was an All-Pro for 80% of his career, give or take some there. And it's and then it was brought up about the winning, and it's like the Hall of Fame is an individual award. And in terms of individual awards, he should get all of them because he was the only player that was worth a damn most of the time that he was in Cleveland. And I just, like, when I go to – I'm not offensive line play is probably my worst evaluation when it comes to like draft and things like that. I think it's probably my weakest area. But one thing I learned when evaluating tackles and their pass sets and their vertical drops is just go watch Joe Thomas. If they look similar to Joe Thomas, they're probably a good football player.
Yeah. It's probably just someone trying to make a take or trying to find a reason not to put him in there, because he's for sure first ballot. You know, if you're talking about a decade of time of one of the best building blocks along an offensive line, you just go to Joe Thomas. He's one of those guys. So congratulations to him. That's an awesome honor. Some of the other guys that made their way in this year: Rondé Barber, defensive back, cornerback for Tampa Bay. You've got Don Coryell, famous for the Air Coryell offense. Chuck Howley, a former linebacker for the Bears and Cowboys through the 50s, 60s, and 70s. You have Joe Klecko, defensive tackle, defensive end, nose tackle, who played through the 70s and 80s for the Jets and Colts. Darrelle Revis Island, that we're aware of. He played all over the place at defensive back. Ken Riley, cornerback for the Bengals through the 60s and the 80s and 70s. You've got Joe Thomas, like we talked about. Zach Thomas, linebacker for the Dolphins and a very short stint with the Cowboys. DeMarcus Ware also made it in there as a linebacker / defensive end, edge guy, Cowboys and Broncos. And sadly, again, my guy Jared Allen didn't make it in. I was really bummed about that. Felt like it was a bit of a snub, but I mean, I can't really argue with the class of guys that made it in there.
And we got some people saying there were some other snubs. Patrick Willis snubbed. I love Patrick Willis. I think his career was long enough too. I think he will go in at some point because he was so goddamn dominant while he was out there. But I think the shorter career probably is going to push him out. He's going to have to wait a couple rounds to get in. Zach Thomas was a great football player. This is the one name that I'm like, man, he's really, really good. Is he Hall of Fame? Probably. But I mean, I could see a Patrick Willis going in. And I know Cleveland fans are absolutely beating the drum for Clay Matthews to get in. And I feel like if Zach Thomas is getting in, Clay Matthews has to get in at some point.
I mean, putting my Packers hate aside, Clay Matthews, I mean, he'd had himself a good career.
Senior. Clay Matthews
Senior. No, it's junior. It's Clay Matthews Jr. was the Browns, and then Clay Matthews the third was the Packers.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll take that back then. But I do agree with you on Zach Thomas, even to an extent, DeMarcus Ware. Now, Zach Thomas has been a finalist 4 times and finally got in. So after 4 looks, I mean, it was like him and Urlacher for a long time were like the best middle linebackers in the league. So it kind of makes sense to me a little bit there. If it was like, obviously not a first ballot time for Zach Thomas, so I can see it a little bit more with him getting in there, where this is only his second time as a finalist and getting in. I think it's a little bit of the namesake teams that he played for, you know, Cowboys and then the Broncos, you know, winning Super Bowl with them. That definitely helped propel him a little bit further. Not to say that he wasn't a good player, because obviously he was fantastic. But those are the 2 guys that I was kind of a little bit more iffy on, but I still both think that they are. When I think of play back in, you know, the 2000s and you know, late 90s, those guys were some of the better defensive players out there that were stalwarts on their defense. So it makes sense for them to get in, just not as high as some of the other guys I would have assumed. And Patrick Willis, yes, I do think that he will make it as well. Probably just going to take a couple of years.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. And Jacob, just so you know, when you guys start doing your draft evaluations for the Barking Browns, if you guys need somebody to hop on there to talk some lineman talk, we're always available. I love talking line play. I know people think it's boring, but games are won and lost in the trenches. So
yeah, we're getting there in the next coming weeks. I'm working on a few wide receivers right now, but we're gonna actually probably in the next 2 weeks I'll have to hit you guys up because we'll be moving that way.
All
yeah,
right,
that's
perfect.
I've definitely started my draft analysis over the past 2 weeks. I've got running notes here on my phone of God, like 30 something odd players that are standing out to me that I'm really liking and want to talk about. So that'll be a fun part of the offseason. I love the offseason, man. I love the offseason and evaluating guys and free agency and all that stuff. It's a great time. But with that, are we ready to start talking about the big game?
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah. Let's do this. So before we start making our picks, I'm going to pop up our picks for me and Evo throughout the playoff picture. Not bad. Not great. I mean, a
So
little
I want to forget the
below.
playoffs. I'm willing to just look at the regular season. The regular season I'm happy with.
Yeah. So I hit 56% on my bets on the season. You hit 62. Very, very good numbers. Through the playoffs, we each went 6-6. I really thought the Bengals were going to win that game. I thought they probably should have won that game. Some things with officiating helped them out, but they were not able to get that done. They were not able to cover either, so that did not go great for me on the +2. I did get the Eagles money line. Even if Brock Purdy stays in that game, I think that Eagles team was probably a little too much. Brock is very good. I am so sad that he is not going to be ready for the start of next year. This is going to push off the whole quarterback controversy for another year for 49ers fans, because I promise you, as soon as that kid is healthy, 49ers fans are going to be clamoring for him to be back in, especially depending on the way Trey Lance looks. So I had the Eagles there. Evo, tough week in the conference championship for you. I think we were both pulling for Brock, did not happen, and then the injury, the Niners had no chance, and we both, you were on the Bengals as well there, and officiating really kind of changed the landscape of what that game was. So, but we're not going to go back to the officiating. We've already talked about that. So that's where we are. We're both 6-6. Comes down to this final game for the playoffs to see if both of us, one of us, can come out and be above 500.
Yeah, so we're out here in Glendale, Arizona, my neck of the woods at State Farm Stadium. It is the Chiefs and the Eagles. Right now, the line on the game currently is Eagles -1.5, over under of 51. And I think that we obviously are going to have our picks of who's going to win the game, but it would be smart to break down the position groups and things like that of these teams to really get into more of a deep dive than what we normally do on a week-to-week basis with games, which is just say, hey, this is the team we think we're going to win, and this is kind of why. It makes sense to get a little bit into the nitty-gritty because we're talking about the two top teams in the NFL. So if we just want to go ahead, straight up comparison on these position groups, we can start off on the offense, quarterback play. You've got Mahomes and Jalen Hurts, both two of the top quarterbacks in the NFL. But for me personally, Mahomes is that pinnacle in the NFL. He's in a tier of his own. Jalen Hurts has had a phenomenal year. He's shown that not only is he just a running quarterback, but he can actually throw the ball some too. And that was one of the big concerns going into this season was we've given you all the weapons now. You've got the best offensive line arguably in football. Can you perform with that? And if you can't, we're probably going to be looking for someone else at quarterback. And now we're talking about potential MVP Jalen Hurts at the end of this year. I will say that in the draft process, I really liked Jalen Hurts. I wanted my team to go out and draft him. And then I had soured on him very quickly after that. And I don't know if it was just because we didn't take him in the draft, but I soured on him. And I will eat crow for it, because even leading up into this year, I was one of those people banging the table questioning, like, is this guy going to be the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles come 2023? And he absolutely is. He's worked himself into a great contract, phenomenal quarterback for this day and age of football, where the mobility of a quarterback is becoming more and more paramount. And he showed the one big question mark that I had was, can he pass the ball effectively? And with competent, good receivers out there, he sure can. That being said, Mahomes is, again, in a different league for me. So if we have to go, who's got the better quarterback, that'd be the Chiefs.
Yeah, and I agree, man. Pat Mahomes is the standard. Jalen Hurts is very, very good. They win in different ways. Obviously, the Eagles' ability to run, RPOs and zone reads with him and his running ability has really made that offense very dynamic. But when I think about quarterback play, the best quarterback in the league is Pat Mahomes. I got to stick with Pat here and give him the edge. It'll be very interesting stylistically the way this Eagles offense matches up with this pretty quick, second level for the Chiefs. So I expect a good game. I expect it to be very close. Edge to the Chiefs, though. Jacob, what do you got, brother?
Yeah, even at less than 100%, Patrick Mahomes is just above everybody. And I think you saw it that he is able to do just enough athletically in terms of moving last week, 2 weeks ago, against the Bengals. And of course, he had a big run that did leave him hobbled. But now you're sitting 2 weeks later. You've got that the only thing they've been focused on is getting that ankle right. And it's like, he doesn't have to go through grueling practices at this point in the year. He doesn't have to do that. So that ankle is as good as it possibly can be. I like Jalen Hurts, but we're going to talk about the defense on the other side. And I actually think that there's some position groups the Chiefs are actually the better defense than the Eagles. And we'll talk about that when we get to there. But I just think in the end, Pat Mahomes is Pat Mahomes. It's really that simple for me.
Yeah.
That's the big, leveling stick is that injury to Mahomes. He came out, in the conference championship and definitely looked a lot better. You could tell he wasn't 100%, and he's not going to be 100% going into this game, but the way that the training staff worked with him and whatever they were probably squirting into that leg to make him feel better, it worked. And now you've
Toradol, baby. Toradol. Let's go.
2 weeks of preparation for that. And, we're sitting with the Chiefs not having anyone on their injury report, which is a really good sign. I don't think that we're probably still not going to see 100% of Patrick Mahomes, but he's probably going to be closer to what you can expect from a mid-season player who is going to have their nicks and dings. So I think that talking about that injury is possibly going to be a little bit overplayed because I don't think it's going to be that much of a factor.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to the running back groups for these offenses. For me, this is not even a close comparison. I love Pacheco and what he has been able to do for this Chiefs offense, his explosiveness, his ability to run through a motherfucker's face. I absolutely love the way he runs the ball. But give me the three-headed monster for the Eagles. They are always fresh. They allow for that offense to be multiple. They can dump it out of the backfield. They can run RPOs. They can run the zone read with any number of those guys. It makes them incredibly dynamic in the running game. The Eagles in a landslide as a position group here in the running backs, but I do really like what Pacheco has shown, and he will be the lead back going forward. CEH, we were off on him in the offseason, and I think that all of Chiefs Nation now understands that CEH is not the answer. He had a really nice rookie year, but he's not that guy.
Yeah, it's the Eagles by a mile. And a lot of that has to do with Jalen Hurts added in there because I know he's the quarterback, but he does function as a running back quite a bit and very effectively so. I love Pacheco. I like McKinnon. I think they're underrated, the two of them as a duo, but it's not just their talent, but the efficiency of the offensive line in Philly and the zone blocking and the scheme that they run. It's just, they were able to match skill players with scheme and offensive linemen so beautifully in Philly that they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, and you look at that and it's amazing what Lane Johnson and Jason Kelsey have done at this stage in their careers, and they're as good as they've ever been.
And for me, it's almost more of a wash between the two teams. I think that Pacheco and Miles Sanders I would take Sanders over Pacheco, but they're relatively even. And then if you're talking about the receiving capabilities of McKinnon and being able to do kind of some of those other things, that matches well with Gainwell. And it's kind of a wash there until you add in, if we're only talking running backs, it's more of a wash. But when you add in the Jalen Hurts aspect of that running game, it makes the rushing offense just incredibly more dangerous because you're not going to see those sorts of running plays from Mahomes. He can run, but he's not going to run like Hurts. like you said, the RPO type stuff creates way more opportunities for the running backs in Philly. Their offensive line play creates more opportunity for them there in Philly. And the fact that Jalen can take off with the ball like he does, it just makes their running game that much better. So running game for the Eagles definitely have that for me. If I'm talking just purely only running back play, if I'm just talent of the running backs, it's a lot more even for me. But the scheme and the way that they're able to do stuff with Hurts out there in Philly, I really like what they got going for them.
And now I know that the Eagles are not playing the Giants, but Boston Scott is always a potential to do something crazy, and it comes out of fucking nowhere too when it happens.
Yeah, you're talking about guys that are going to be getting 10 or less touches of the ball in the game in Boston Scott and Gainwell, and they're going to be making significant impacts. It seems like they always do every game, that when they get the ball, they make the most of it. And McKinnon gets mixed in there quite a bit more, but he's definitely more of that receiving option, not as much of the running option.
All right, so let's move on to pass catchers. We're going to include all pass catchers because I don't want to break it down to tight end and wide receiver. So all of the pass catchers, for me, this is incredibly close. The receiving options, the receivers for the Eagles are far superior. But when you look at that Chiefs side, Travis Kelce is the toughest matchup in all of football. Honestly, like, I don't know. Like, I know Jettas is insane. Tyreek Hill is super good at what he does, but Travis Kelce, you line him up against anybody. A corner's too small. A safety's too slow. Linebackers too slow. Like, you have got to have a dude specifically built to cover Travis Kelce. So for the pass catcher group, I have this as a wash because of the things that Travis Kelce can do in the matchup nightmare that he is. The receiving options are obviously better for the Eagles, but as a whole unit, I have this one as a wash. Jacob, what do you got?
Yeah. I just think consistently that I like A.J. Brown and Smith more than I like what's going on the other side, wide receiver wise, because I think Goddard and Travis Kelce, obviously Travis Kelce's the better, but I think you're looking at a guy that can be dynamic in Dallas Goedert. And in the end, I'm going to go with the Eagles by a little bit because you can take Kelce and Goddard and be like, okay, both of these guys can really play. They match up. You could take A.J. Brown. And then I start thinking, well, who am I matching it up with on the Chiefs that is like on the individual level? Like Scanling, MVS is fine. He's a good player. Sky Moore I liked a lot in the last year's draft, but I'm not looking at definitive I think the pass catchers at the wide receiver room raise Jalen Hurts' ability. I don't know that the pass catchers outside of Travis Kelce raise Patrick Mahomes' ability. I believe it then becomes more about Mahomes than the pass catchers as compared to where at times it's because of A.J. Brown and what he can do. It's because of the separation that Devontae Smith can create with the speed and athleticism that he has. And so in the end, I got to go Eagles. I don't think it's by a ton by any stretch of the imagination, but I think just pound for pound, I think they're a little bit better.
Yeah, and I'm kind of leaning with Jacob on this one as well. Obviously, if we're matching tight end to tight end, Kelce is better. Goddard is very damn good.
Kelce clear. Goddard is good, but Kelce clears, man. Kelce's right now top 5 tight end in the history of the NFL, and his career is not over.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, if I'm looking at the Chiefs offense from, we'll even go or their passing offense a year ago, I'm getting way closer and might even lean towards them because you've got Kelce, who is just do anything, always catch the ball. He's good in the middle of the field. He's good for that chunk, 10, 15 yards. But then when you had Tyreek Hill, he's your explosive playmaker. He's that guy, take the top off with his speed, and they just don't really have that as much anymore. You get a little bit of that here and there from like Kadarius Toney, where he'll have some play where he's able to break and do something and get a lot of rack yards, but it's not super consistent, and you don't have any of those burners necessarily. And then when I go to the Eagles side, you're getting some of that production from Goddard in the middle of the field. Devonta Smith, he is that kind of take the top off of the defense with the speed, and A.J. Brown can just do anything. Like he's good for an explosive play. He's good down the field. He's good short, intermediate. It doesn't matter. He's just so good at everything, and being able to manipulate those defensive backs with his big body. It makes me edge it out towards that Eagles offense, just because they can be consistent, but they also have the potential to have really big explosive plays, where I think the explosive play potential in the passing game for the Chiefs is lessened now because they don't have that speed of Tyreek Hill. Now, I will say this about Kelce. My favorite part of his game is his little hooks, where he'll go 5-7 yards down the field, he'll hook, and then when he catches the ball, he goes the opposite direction of his original travel, or the opposite direction of where the defensive backs are going. That's what I think is the biggest part of his game, is that he's not going to be the quickest. He's not got like insane moves, but his field awareness of where the defenders should be going to tackle him, and his ability to go opposite direction to get those extra yards and just get north south is incredible. That's one of my favorite things watching him play is those 5-7 yard little hooks, and then he's all of a sudden going the other direction from where the defenders are going.
Guys, I apologize. I'm gonna have to bounce on you guys just a little bit early, but I did want to say I've had a really fun time on here with you guys. I'm happy to come back. I wanted just real quick on the defense and a prediction, so I can leave you guys with this and a stunner. Listen, when Trent McDuffie came back from injury and George Karlaftis took off, two guys I was very high on in the draft last year, I think that Chiefs defense is better. I straight up think that they are a better defense from top to bottom, pound for pound. And I will take the Chiefs by 2 scores. I'll take the Chiefs by 2 scores tomorrow because I think they neutralize Jalen Hurts' running ability. No, I'm sorry. They neutralize his passing ability and make it more about his running ability. Like an idiot. I totally flipped those on you guys.
That's all right, man.
But seriously, make sure you guys tag me in this and all this shit. I will promote the hell out of it. You guys do an amazing job over here. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about some offensive line play this offseason.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming on, man. It's been awesome.
Yeah, we're very appreciative. Thank you so much, guys. Jacob Roach. Hey, before you get out of here, tell all of our viewers where they can check you out, your Twitter handle, all that stuff, your show, everything. I got it a little bit, but you're going to talk about it way better than I can.
You can find me at Roachism13 on Twitter. I'm over on the Network 216 YouTube page. I do all of our draft videos right now. Tyler will join me a little bit later on some of the draft stuff. I write for Browns Wire, which is part of USA Today's sports media group, brownswire.usatoday.com. You can find a lot over there. I write way too much over there. You can ask my wife. And working on Josh Downs' film room, the Carolina wide receiver this weekend. I should have that up tomorrow. So those are my favorite things. And from time to time, you'll see me on Sports for CLE on Cleveland.com's YouTube channel. So I got stuff nice. if you're bored.
Perfect. I actually have talked to the guys from Sports for CLA. I do color commentary for Cleveland State women's basketball team, and they do the production in the back. So I know those guys, and we might be on there fairly soon. So
there you go. Appreciate you guys. I will look forward to watching the rest of this episode when I get the chance.
All right, man. Thanks we appreciate you. Thanks for coming on, brother.
All right. Peace.
All right, guys. That was Jacob Roach. That was a great person to have on. I love his stuff, man. He is so in tune with all the things going on. So we are very appreciative to him for being on the show. And we're definitely going to have to do some more stuff with those guys. I love Carnes. He's so goddamn funny, man.
Well,
like, I love his positivity.
It's great to have Jacob other people on.
It is.
Yeah, it's because, as much as we like to try to have our own opinions and everything, it's super easy to possibly get caught up in a little bit of an echo chamber of what we're doing and feed off of one another. It's nice to have another person in to be able to talk that actually knows what they're talking about and get on stuff. We're not having to pop on the Roberto Gusolinis of the world who are just like jack off all over the Eagles all the time and Nick Cage this and Nick Cage that. So great having him on today, and look forward to some stuff in the future. But with that, we get back into this game. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving on to the last position group, the big one, the one where shit's going to go down, the offensive line group. I know how I feel on this. I want to know how you feel because I feel like there's a chance that we have differing opinions.
So offensive line, I do think that it is relatively even if we have to just go on the whole for the entire year on offense. That Eagles offensive line to me is the best in the NFL, the way that they performed. Um, Jordan Mailata, Landon Dickerson, Jason Kelsey, uh, Isaac Samulo, and Lane Johnson, all fantastic. Now Lane Johnson's nursing that groin injury again, but he's just going to keep on going. It is what it is. And then you flip over the Chiefs, Orlando Brown, Joe Tooney, Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Andrew Wiley. This is a offensive line that they have funneled a lot of money into, draft resources and whatnot, going out there and shelling out picks and money for Brown and a lot of money for Tooney for a guard. They did what they had to do to make sure that they were set on that offensive line. At the end of the day, it is very close to a wash for me. I like both of these groups a lot. I'm going to lean towards the Eagles just because of the way that they have been this whole season. And like Jacob brought up, the scheme that they run there in Philly seems to mesh so well with the players that they have. If they were running a different scheme there in Philly, this line would still be good, but I don't think that they would be as good as they were this year with that RPO and stuff. So for me, counting the scheme into it, I'm going to lean towards the Eagles having the better offensive line. And that even goes as far as into their backups. I think the backups there, if someone goes down for the Eagles, is a little bit better. They've got Andre Dillard. They got Cam Jurgens. Those are two guys that I think can play all across the offensive line. Jurgens is definitely an interior guy, and Dillard is definitely more of a tackle, though he can play a little bit of guard if he needs to. Whereas if we're going over to the Chiefs, you've got Prince Tega Wanoho and Nick Allegretti, guys that I wouldn't feel as comfortable if they had to step in and be playing in the Super Bowl. So if an injury happens along one of those lines, I feel a little bit better as well about that Eagles line.
Okay, so we're close, but we're not there. For me, the Eagles clear, and it's not even fucking close. Everybody knows how I feel about the Cleveland Browns and their offensive line, that I believe that they are the best unit in football. I've been slamming the table on that for basically the entire time that we have been doing this show. The Browns are fantastic statistically. And if you just watch the tape, the Eagles were the best offensive line of football this year. And I don't think it was close with anybody else. They are dominant with the things that they do. They run that RPO wide zone scheme to absolute fucking perfection. You want to teach a line the way you're supposed to step in unison, hat on a hat, doubles up to backers, like stretch does not matter. They are so above what I have seen this year in the NFL. Their offensive line is unfucking real. I'm not going to bury the Chiefs, though. They are very good. The best, if I put all of those offensive linemen in a group, and I was like, I got to make one pick. Who am I starting my offensive line with? It's Creed Humphreys, the center for the Chiefs. He is the best offensive lineman of the group. But as a whole, as a unit, with the things that they can do, that Eagles offensive line is unfucking real. I did not think that they would be this efficient, because there's some guys that I had some serious question marks about on that Eagles offensive line, considering the injury histories and all of the shit that team has gone through over the last couple of years. But my God, are they impressive to watch. They move bodies. They don't have to drive you off the ball. They will be in the right spot on your inside shoulder, on an outside shoulder, leading up with a fullback, an extra back, pin pull actions. Like, they are just exactly what you want to see out of an offensive line. They are so goddamn good. Eagles clear for me. Not that the Chiefs are bad, but nobody in the NFL was as good as the Eagles this year.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with it. I mean, I'd like to think that both these squads are going to be relatively evenly matched, but the Eagles are better for me. And like I said, they're going to take it, not by a mile, but I definitely think they're the better grouping there. All right, so we can flip on over to the defense.
Yeah.
And want to start off with that defensive line there?
I do, because I believe
the offensive line.
I do, because I believe this is the closest position group for these two teams, because the Eagles' defensive line is just ungodly with their depth. We talked about it. What are they going to do when they have those injuries, 3/4 of the way through the season? Well, they went out and signed 2 veteran guys who know how to play football, get the job done. They generate pressure with 4. They don't have to blitz. They don't have to be special. That front 4 is good enough. And a Hassan Reddick coming off the edge, I thought he maybe was a flash in the pan for that 1 year that we saw him in Arizona when Chandler Jones goes down, but he is not. The dude is legit. He is a fucking dude. What they can do with their front 4 is so impressive to me. But that Kansas City front 4 is damn near as good. I love Karlaftis, just like Jacob said. There's a guy who's really started to come on. And then when you have a guy who will he can clog a lane, rush the passer from the interior in a Chris Jones, do you want to ruin any play in the NFL? Pressure up the middle, and there is not a guy in the NFL better than that, than Chris Jones. Now, I know we talk a lot about, God, and I just forgot his name, out in LA, the Rams, the best defensive player in football.
Aaron Donald, Jesus Christ, brain fart. I'm going to blame it on the beer. Aaron Donald does a lot more 3 technique type lineups. Chris Jones will move to the 1. He'll line up at a 3. You see him in 2 eyes. He can line up anywhere on the interior and rush the passer from there. This is a very, very close matchup. I would give a slight edge because of the depth to the Eagles, but it's only because of the depth. They do things differently, these two teams. They're both very, very good. Just the depth is going to be the slight edge for the Eagles for me. So for me, I'm not slight. I do like the Chiefs defense, but I like the Eagles that grouping better for sure. So the Chiefs, like you said, you've got George Karlaftis, you got Kalen Saunders, Chris Jones, and Frank Clark. And then you're going to see a little bit of Carlos Dunlop and stuff mixed in there as well, especially more passing plays and whatnot, which is a fantastic squad. Like you said, Frank Clark, Chris Jones, those guys have been just outstanding this year. And they have been their whole career. Karlaftis, definitely towards the second half of the year, came on, but he's not like necessarily the huge pass rusher necessarily, but he is stalwart on the end. But if I flip over to the Eagles, if I'm looking at their top line, it's fantastic. But like you said, the depth guys, those are starters on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
And they're starters on this team, even though they might not be number 1 on the depth chart. The way that they're able to rotate their defensive linemen, which is one of the underrated things in the NFL and in football in general, is if you have guys who are able to rotate in and out and you're not seeing any sort of drop off from a backup coming in, guys who are better for passing downs, better for rushing downs, things like that, the flexibility of that Eagles line is insane. So you've got Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Javon Hargrave, and Josh Sweat out there as your main starters. But you've also got Jordan Davis, who is just a ginormous guy who can clog up the middle. You've got Linval Joseph, who was my starting nose tackle for the Vikings for a lot of years. And yes, he's older and he's taken, he's not the same guy he was before, but he is like a Jordan Davis light at this point, where they can get Jordan Davis from air because he's fucking ginormous and he needs a break every now and then. You've got Robert Quinn, who is a fantastic pass rusher. You got Ndamukong Suh that they brought in there, who is just nasty, mean, great for pass rushing, but also can still hold up in the run game. And that's not even getting into your Hassan Reddick type situation, who has just had a blow up year where he's getting after the rusher. That you could take Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, or Javon Hargrave and Josh Sweat out and
they still have a starting front four in the NFL.
You still put in a Jordan Davis and Ndamukong Suh, Linval Joseph, Hassan Reddick, and I'm still happy with it. I'm still like, that is a starting offensive line that has some scary dudes on it. And so they're able to rotate so much more, keep guys fresh, where it feels like they're only playing half a game when they're out there. Those guys are still fresh by the end of the game. They're able to, on passing downs, put out some elite pass rushers out there. You like the Eagles' defensive line setup and their pass rush capability, to me, is just head and shoulders above, because they've got so much flexibility with what they're able to do. If they're able to game plan correctly on defense, these guys should be able to match up for any scenario that they're put in and have success.
And do it with only 4 of them. You don't have to bring pressure. You can run out there with the group that we have named off for the Eagles. You can run out a speed fucking D-line blitz package on a 3rd down and 10, 3rd and 12. And you got guys that can line up at a 3, line up at a 1, line up in a 7, a fucking wide 9, any position, and rush the passer. And then if they wanted to, they could say, all right, so they maybe got us on that play. Let's just go ahead and run out every single fucking hole clogger, and we're going to make Pat Mahomes beat us with his arm. Now, Pat Mahomes has absolute capability to beat you with his arm, assuming that his wide receiver group can hold up and get open quick enough. But let's move on into another position group that's going to kind of go over some of those more interesting matchups. Let's talk linebacker cores. What do you got linebacker core wise? You going Chiefs? You going Eagles?
For this one, it is actually pretty close to me. I think I'm leaning towards the Eagles again here on the defense. I know Jacob was big on that Chiefs defense, but for me, so starting out there for the Chiefs, you got Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, Carlos Dunlap as your main starters. So mixing some Leo Chenal, some Darius Harris here and there, which is a fine group. And linebackers are a little bit more less important in a lot of schemes these days. But when you flip over to the Eagles, Kazir White, TJ Edwards, and Hassan Reddick as your starting guys, you've got Nakobe Dean, who is a high draft pick this year. You've got your ability to rotate in some guys like a Patrick Johnson. That group, to me, I mean, TJ Edwards alone, I think is, if we're looking at Hassan Reddick as a little bit more of a pass rusher.
Yeah, I mean, he's technically a linebacker, but I consider him an edge rusher.
Yeah, but if
he's not covering anybody. If he's on the fucking field, he's coming.
Yeah, to me, out of both these groups, pure linebacker, TJ Edwards is the best, and he's going to earn himself a big contract this year. He's been fantastic. Kazir White has been a very welcome surprise for the Eagles. He's come in and become a very solid starter. And like I said, Nakobe Dean, high draft pick, he just hasn't gotten as much playing time.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought they were probably expecting a little bit more out of Nakobe Dean, because I think everybody had Nakobe Dean pegged as a 3-down linebacker from day one.
It's not that he's bad, though. It's just the guys in front of him are that much better. And so it's tough for him to break into a starting lineup when you've got solid guys all around. They were expecting Kobe Dean to possibly take over for Kazir White, or maybe if TJ Edwards didn't have as good of a year, that they'd be mixing time a lot more. Not the case, though, because that Eagles linebacker core has been very fantastic. So for me, it is a little bit closer, but I like that Eagles linebacker core just a little bit better.
So I like the Eagles linebacking core better on paper in the names and their athletic ability. They are bigger, faster, stronger than that Chiefs defense, in my opinion. They are the more athletic group. They should be able to do more. But I also do not see a single guy on that defense in that second level that can match up with Travis Kelce. And that is scary if I am a fucking Eagles fan. There is not a single guy in that group that I would want to put on Travis Kelce in a fucking man-to-man situation. Not one. That means I'm going to have to move to a nickel, maybe a big nickel, and try to get an extra safety on the board, which takes one of those linebackers off. I think when we're talking position groups, it like when we just line them up, face value, the Eagles are superior. Yes. Matchup wise, I don't know that they're going to be able to contend with what the Chiefs can do in the middle of the field.
It's going to be tough. I mean, I would think that the natural matchup there is moving CJ Gardner-Johnson down into the box and having him on Kelce a lot more. But that does, open other things up in the passing game. And if you're going to put that in front of Patrick Mahomes, he's going to be able to pick things apart. And that's what's good about the Chiefs receiving core is that while they're not explosive, while they're not like world beaters, they are all solid receivers who are good route runners. They can get into open space. And Patrick Mahomes is just going to not favor any one of them. He's going to favor the good option on any given play. And if you're having to devote as much resources as they're probably going to have to towards Kelce, because we're talking Gardner Johnson and probably like a James Bradbury or someone like that, kind of shadowing him to have him double covered. If you're talking about,
they're going to have to bracket. They're going to have to find a way to bracket Travis Kelce in the middle of the field.
It's going to open up a lot more other receiving options for those guys for Mahomes, and he's the guy that's the surgeon. He can go out there and dissect that. So that is definitely a good thing to bring up, is that position group wise on paper, for sure, the Eagles, in my opinion, are better. If we're talking about schematic stuff, yeah, it's going to create some issues for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, we're both right there. On paper, the Eagles look great. I don't know if they match up well based on personnel groupings. And I think the Chiefs, they don't really have to do too many different things. I think that they are athletic enough to cover Dallas Goedert. We don't see too much press man out of that Chiefs defense. We're seeing some cushion. We're seeing different looks where the linebackers are not asked to have nearly as big of a responsibility. Whereas with the Eagles, we're seeing man-to-man coverage almost always, and rightfully so, because their guys on the outside are fucking amazing. So that creates a tough matchup. In this one, I'm calling this a wash for me because of the schematics.
Now, and I know we've already kind of talked about these position groups a little bit, but I think what's going to be the big difference maker is how Steve Spagnuolo gets that defense working for the Chiefs versus this Philly offense. If they're able to kind of thwart that RPO a little bit, and if they're able to contain Jalen Hurts and not let the running game get out of hand, they're going to have, Philly's going to have a tough time. It's going to really be forcing Hurts to become a passer. And if there's a weaker part of his game, it would be passing, and it's not weak by any means. No. And then with the receiving options that you have, like, he has every chance to succeed. But this Philly team, especially towards the end of last year, they were heavy, hardcore run team. This year, they are definitely a big-time run team, but they just have great receiving options as well.
They have so many weapons.
So if you're taking away one facet of the game and you're taking away the run game, they could kill you with the pass game still. They definitely could. If you take away the pass game, the run game will be good, but I don't think it's enough to maybe warrant them to win. And that's the thing, is the Chiefs are probably going to be having to work very hard to stop that run game, and it might make them lack a little bit more in the pass game. Yeah. I think Spags is going to try to draw up a lot of blitzes and stuff as well to get things shaken for Jalen Hurts and put him in uncomfortable spots. And beyond the front four guys, I don't see a lot of great linebacker blitzing options there for the Chiefs. At least not.
No, they're going to have to scheme something. I don't know that any one of those guys is a natural pass rusher, blitzer. I think they have a lot of guys. They have smaller linebackers who run well, can cover pretty good. but they're going to have to find a way to generate additional pressure. They're going to have to come out with just a really, really good scheme to slow that down. Now, I'm very appreciative of Jacob. I do not see a way that the Chiefs are going to get rid of the passing game and force a run. And honestly, if they do, I don't know that I like that for the Chiefs either, because that shortens the game.
Yeah.
So,
and I guess that kind of jumps us into our defensive backs. Because, you know, if we're talking pass game stuff, the defensive backs matter a lot. And you're looking at a Chiefs crew here that has a lot of young guys, rookies and stuff out there. Trent McDuffie. I love Trent McDuffie. I really liked him in the draft process. He's really grown this year and become very good. Other than that, I mean, Justin Reed, Juan Thornhill, L'Jarius Sneed is going to be back out there, which is a big boost for
that. Is a big get back.
And you go over to the Eagles and it's like, well, if you're doing side-by-side comparison, it's
Eagles
tough
all day.
James Bradbury, Gardner Johnson, Blankenship, Slay, Avante Maddox, Marcus Epps, all these guys are real good. They're not maybe we put too much onus on rookie play because these guys aren't rookies anymore. They played a full NFL season. They're no longer rookies, but they are still young in this aspect. They have never played in this big of a game, and it's going to be difficult going up against your Browns.
Yeah,
you know, that receiving core for
Devontae.
Tough. Now, like I said, the receiving options for the Chiefs, they're all good. They're just not great.
Do you see
Mahomes elevates them.
Is there a one on that Chiefs team right now? I don't see a one.
Travis Kelce. He's the number one receiver.
Okay, so yes, no. Okay, so let me.
But if you're talking purely wide receivers, no.
If we're talking just purely wide receivers, they don't have a one at wide receiver. They had a one in Tyreek Hill. They traded him. They got some picks back. I really thought Sky Moore would come on and take a massive role because he can do a lot of the things that Tyreek Hill can do. Not as dynamic, but that didn't happen. They go out, they get a Kadarius Toney, who has been an interesting usage. I thought that he would get a lot more usage than what he's gotten so far. It's really just gadget plays for Kadarius Toney right now. And I don't see a guy on that Chiefs team that can consistently win a one-on-one matchup with those outside corners. They don't have a one. They don't have a guy on the edge that can go win. Travis Kelce is going to fucking eat in this game. The only way they're going to have to bracket him in the middle of the field, which is a really tough ask because if anybody on the outside has an off day, there is no help. Anytime you double in the middle of the field, the edges are severely exposed. You cannot have a misstep when you are bracketing in the middle of the field. But they don't have a guy. They just don't. They don't have a dude that I say he can go out there, line up against one of those guys on the edge for the Eagles and win consistently. For me, the Eagles, once again, clear in the back end. They're just special. The fact that they went out and were able to get a Darius Slay a couple years ago from a Lions team that was bereft of talent and not get more than what they got was an absolute steal. They were smart to re-sign him for as long as possible. Slay does not fuck around. He has been a dude for a long and was honestly trying to prove himself again once he got traded, and he's done a fantastic job. I like the Eagles way better in the back end than I like the Chiefs on paper and matchup wise, who they're going to face.
Yeah, the Chiefs' offensive passing game beyond Kelce is kind of your death by 1,000 cuts type of group. They've got interchangeable guys all across the board, nothing explosive, nothing special, but Mahomes elevates them and he can take advantage of that. The passing game for the Eagles has the capability to be super standard, regular passing game, or explosive out of nowhere. And when you're going up against, looking at the defensive backs situation, it'll be an easier get for the Eagles to focus on the one guy and manage everything else than it is for the Chiefs and their younger group and the somewhat less talented group to be able to not only just play a consistent game of football, but also limit those big explosive plays that can possibly happen. So for me as well, it's the Eagles on this one. They got a better defensive back group. All in all, I like that Eagles defense over the Chiefs defense. Chiefs defense is good. Eagles defense has the potential to be great.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, man. All right. So with that takes us through all of the position groups. We're not going to dive into special teams. Both of them are, decent. None of those their special teams don't worry me. They don't excite me either. So we're not going to go into making our picks just yet. We're going to talk some fucking prop bets. The thing that everybody loves to try to bet on that nobody has any idea what is going to happen. I know you got some things pulled up for prop bets. I'm going to kick us off. I want to start with the Gatorade. And honestly, if you're in a state where you can bet prop bets, I love the one that I got. I cannot do prop bets. Like there are some things that we just can't do in Ohio. We're new to the gambling thing. We'll see. We can bet octopuses, but we can't bet on scorigamis. And like there's, a whole bunch of different things that you can bet. But if the Eagles win this game, the Gatorade color will be red. And I'll tell you why. This is a revenge game for Andy Reid, right? Maybe. Kind of people are trying to maybe push a narrative that, he didn't get his fair shake in Philly and they kicked his ass out of there when he's going to multiple championship games, has a chance at a Super Bowl, and now he wants to get back. Well, if the Eagles win, they're dumping red Gatorade because that is the color of the Chiefs. This is no revenge game here. We're just better than you. If the Eagles win, the Gatorade color will be red.
So what I can find for the prop bets out there right now is orange is plus 250, yellow green is plus 350, clear or just water is plus 500, blue plus 500, red or pink plus 550, purple plus 900, and no Gatorade being poured at all is plus 1600. So
that's not hitting. That's the 1600's not hitting.
Yeah. I'm going to go with the orange, even though that's the easiest one, plus 250. It's historically what the Chiefs have used on Andy Reid. And so
you're saying if the Chiefs win.
If the Chiefs win.
Okay. If the Chiefs win, they're going orange.
Now, Eagles, I guess yellow, green, just because it's their colors. And yellow is like one of the more common Gatorades out there. But I don't know. This is weird, prop bets are all fucking weird, man. And I'll say this too, with the prop bets last year to this year, I was able to find a lot less this year than last year. I don't know why. It was COVID times and things were hyped up a lot differently and we've calmed down a little bit. So maybe the prop bets aren't as crazy and wild out there as what we're expecting. But I did find several.
All right, so go ahead and lead us into that. If I don't pee, I'm going to piss my pants. So
all right.
I'll be right back.
So next up is the coin toss. All right, so heads or tails, who's going to win the coin toss? They're both minus 105. It is a 50-50, but I know a lot of people like to bet maybe not as smart as they should, and we'll go out there to just throw some money on the game, and coin toss is something that you don't need to know anything about football about. You just need to know that a coin has two sides and you can go for it. Couple pieces of information here. 4 of the past 5 Super Bowl coin tosses have landed on heads. So does that mean heads is going to continue or is tails due? I'm thinking that tails is going to be due. It's also heads is a 9-5 run since Super Bowl 43 back in 2009. Let's see here. I'm not seeing anything else as far as great odds here one way or the other. But we can actually get into which team will win the coin toss and win the game. So if the Chiefs win the coin toss and win the game, it is plus 300 odds. If the Eagles win the coin toss and win the game, is plus 250 odds. Which I guess would kind of lead into a little bit of questions of, does the coin toss really matter? But we're talking coin toss, Mike.
Tails. Tails never fails.
Are minus 105. I'm also going tails. However, heads has won for let's see here. 4 of the past 5 Super Bowl coin tosses have landed on heads, but that comes after a 4-year-long run of tails never failing. So recently, it has been
A little heads
heads,
run.
but that
I'm
means
still rolling tails, man. There will never be a time where I am in a coin toss situation where I do not say the word tails. Ever.
Right.
I don't think that it's ever come up where I'm like, you know what? This time it's going to be heads. I'm always tails never fails. I'm going with tails. The fact that it's plus 105 or minus 105 for both guys, if you are new to gambling, this is the way that Vegas hedges their bets so they make some money back because they can't give you even odds. They have to take something.
Yep.
So that's, even though it's a 50-50 shot, that you're not getting even odds.
No, like I said, I'm going tails as well. Your boy loves some head, but I'm going tails for this one.
Well done. Well done.
So post-game MVP speech. What will be mentioned first during the Super Bowl MVP speech? Will it be team or the teammates, which is minus 120?
Yeah.
The city and fans, plus 325. God or your religion, plus 370. Family, plus 690. Coaches, plus 1200. And the team owner, plus 2500.
Yeah, so I always lean towards the God religion in this one. We have a lot of guys in the league that are very, very faith based, and that's kind of where I always lead. Teammates, obviously, that's gonna come up, but when you stick a microphone in somebody's face right after just a crazy emotional win, and all of that shit is running through them. Like they're just gonna, the natural reaction is to the things that you believe helped get you to there. And a lot of people, that is their faith, their belief in God, and that they were blessed with the ability to be there. So that's why I always kind of tend to lean in that direction.
And I'm going to go with city or the fans, more so the city than the fans. But I think I can just see a player going up there, being like Philadelphia or Kansas City, being stoked.
Cleveland,
Yeah,
this is for you.
How often do you hear that?
Once. Thanks, LeBron.
But yeah, I'll go with city and fans on that one. Let's see what next. Will a player propose after the game? Plus 400 for yes or minus 650 for no?
Don't bet this. It's minus 650. They're not in fucking college anymore, guys.
It happened with the Rams, I believe.
Who? Did I miss that?
Their safety. Let's see here. Taylor Rapp, the safety for the Rams.
Really? I missed that.
Proposed to his longtime girlfriend after their Super Bowl victory.
Okay, so I did not have that on my bingo card. I'm still not going with it, man. Like
I'm also leaning towards no.
It's played out.
Though we could have a birth at the stadium if I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
So Jason Kelsey's wife is prego as fuck. She's going to be up in a booth with the midwife.
I would say they brought the midwife. They brought the doctor to fucking take care of this.
If he goes into labor, they're having the baby there at the stadium. They've got names and stuff picked out. Apparently, I didn't go in and look at the articles for it, but
the whole fucking family's there anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Because a storyline that we did not talk about, it's 2 brothers played in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Travis and Jason both playing.
That's not the brothers I was talking about.
Oh,
Pat Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. Couple of brothers playing in the Super Bowl. First time it's ever happened.
I suppose you're right. They're going to have the first ever full female squadron flyover as well for the game.
Really? That's awesome.
Yep. So trying to do a whole bunch of firsts for the game. But yeah, I believe that Kelsey and his wife have picked out a specific name for the baby if they are to be born at the stadium, that it's going to be specific to that. So we'll see. I mean, if there's a time to go into labor, it's going to be with all the noise, excitement, anxiety, pressure, all that stuff going on. That could just kickstart things, I suppose. So we'll see. Well, I guess she's ready to pop. Super Bowl commercial prop bets.
Oh, always good. Always good.
Which will be the first chip company commercial? Doritos or Pringles?
Oh, the fact that Tostitos is not listed is surprising to me because I feel like it should be. If is Tostitos, if they come in, do I automatically lose my bet if I only have the two options?
I think if in this situation they're only offering you two options, obviously another chip company could pop in there and take that. But
I was instantly going to say Tostitos as the number one.
Okay. Well, Doritos is minus 130, Pringles plus 100. I would be going Doritos.
Pringles. I would go Doritos between those two for sure. But if I were picking any chip company, Tostitos.
Okay. Which snack company commercial will air first, Doritos or M&M's?
Ooh. Doritos.
I think the M&M's might go for it.
Yeah, maybe. But I don't want to see the M&M's commercial. Give me the sexy M&M's back.
150 and Doritos plus 150.
Give me the sexy M&M's back, though. I don't want
that. Getting into Mike's kinks with sexy M&M's.
We don't kink shame on this show, all right?
Of course not. Which beer brand commercial will air first, Budweiser or Heineken? Both at minus 115.
Heineken? How is that not Budweiser?
I don't know. Maybe there's some insider info.
Maybe. Listen, Vegas doesn't set lines off a fucking whim. They know a guy who knows a guy.
All right.
I'm still going Budweiser, though.
Some other head-to-heads, and I would go Budweiser as well. Head-to-head, other first to air commercial props. Avocados. Are we going to see avocados from Mexico brand at minus 333 or Hellman's? Minus 425. I don't even know what Hellman's is, but I've
Give me avocados from Mexico. If I'm not getting my avocados from fucking Mexico, I don't want them.
Experian versus Rakuten. Experian's minus 125. Rakuten's minus 120.
Experian. I know way more about Experian than I do a Rakuten. So
this is an interesting one. M&M's or Pepsi Zero Sugar?
So Pepsi is going to have to make a massive push marketing wise for the Super Bowl. If you guys are unaware, Pepsi used to be the sponsor for the halftime show. They did not renew that sponsorship, and that is why we are having the Apple, iTunes, whatever the fuck it is, halftime show featuring Rihanna. So Pepsi has lost that big promotional thing at halftime. They're going to have to make a massive push marketing-wise on the most watched television spectacle every fucking year. So I expect Pepsi to get that one.
All right, and the odds would be nice for you there. So M&M's is minus 130. Pepsi is plus 159.
Oh, yeah. Give me the Pepsi for sure.
It's the Pepsi Zero Sugar, though.
I don't know. If it has to be the Zero Sugar, then give me the M&M's. If it were any Pepsi, it would be Pepsi for sure.
Pepsi Zero Sugar. All right, and then Popcorners versus Pringles. So those little pop chips. They're both.
What the fuck is a Popcorners?
It's the popped rice type of chip that's supposed to be healthier for you.
Oh, get the fuck out of here. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Give me the Pringles.
All right. They're both minus 105 on that one. All right. And that's what I've got for prop bets from this website. I've seen some other ones as far as halftime show with Rihanna. Over under 8.5 songs.
Under 8 even. I would go 8 even. Do we have a time on the Star Spangled Banner?
Let me look.
Because if the mark is 117, 115 in that area, I'm going under.
I had seen it on one of the sites, but I'm not seeing it on this current site that I'm on right now. So this one has a whole bunch of fun stuff that we'll have to get into. Yep, not seeing it. All right. Let's check this out here.
I hate when I type in Google and Bing takes me to Google. Bing, I don't want you. I have never wanted.
First celebrity to be shown on the broadcast, and I'm assuming this is after like kickoff starts. I don't know, maybe not. Joe Biden minus 500. Bradley Cooper is minus 500. Any
like
of
that.
the Kardashian sisters minus 500.
Fucking out of here.
Eric Stone Street minus 300. I don't even know who that is.
I was going to ask you, who the fuck is that?
Yeah, so not getting my vote. Jason Sudeikis minus 300.
Okay.
Meek Mill minus 300. Paul Rudd minus 300.
Okay.
Kevin Hart minus 250.
That's the pick right there. It's Kevin Hart.
Henry Cavill minus 200. Mike Trout minus 145. We've got Larry Fitzgerald minus 125.
There is no fucking way. Okay, so I'm sorry. We've been on football all day. There is no fucking way Mike Trout is featured in a commercial that soon in the Super Bowl. Major League Baseball does not have the fucking brains or the stones to promote their best players, especially on a national scale like that. There's no way Rob fucking Manfred would allow that to happen. No chance that Mike Trout is getting featured.
This is just celebrity to be shown first during the broadcast. So I don't know if that's commercial or at the stadium or what. And then your biggest, or least likely two are Kanye West at plus 400 or Donald Trump at plus 600.
Why are those not better odds? There's no way Kanye or Trump is getting on there either.
Right. I don't know why
no fucking way.
Pink is so low. Pink is plus 400. She's in there with Kanye and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, wow.
Either way, we can move on.
So I do have some. Oh man, I was off on my. So looking at some of these times, we've had some people go 2:16. We've had some 2 minutes on the time. I do not see the over under though on this bet. Honestly, I like the under. I really do. If you're going to bet national anthem for the length, because I think it's going to be higher than they might even be in the 140s, 150s. Take the under.
I feel like 147 was like the over under that I'd seen before, but I'm not positive. So during America the Beautiful, who will be shown first? Patrick Mahomes or Jalen Hurts?
Pat Mahomes. He's a bigger star.
Mahomes is minus 145. Hurts is plus 145. A second head-to-head for who will be shown first during America the Beautiful. Travis Kelce or A.J. Brown? Travis Kelce is minus 150. A.J. Brown plus 118.
A.J. Brown, because they'll cut from I'm going A.J. Brown. Fuck it. That's what I said. That's what I'm going with.
All right. Another head-to-head. Head coaches, Andy Reid or Nick Sirianni. Reid is minus 200. Sirianni's plus 175.
Andy Reid, just because people know who the fuck Andy Reid is. If you're not an Eagles fan or a very avid watcher of the NFL, or probably Pat McAfee, where they constantly talk about Nick Sirianni, you're not going to even know who the fuck Nick Sirianni is.
Yep. Give me the whale. National anthem head-to-heads. Who will be shown first? Travis Kelce or A.J. Brown?
I'll go Kelce for that one.
All right. National anthem. Who will be shown first? The Kansas City Chiefs player or staff, or a Philadelphia Eagles player or staff?
I think Philly, because they're the favorites by a point and a half or whatever it is right now. So they'll show the favorite first.
All right. National anthem head coaches, Reid or Sirianni?
Reid, there's never a point in which I'm going to pick Sirianni over Reid in literally any fucking category ever. Not that Nick Sirianni's a bad coach, but Andy Reid's a legend.
Yep. All right. National anthem. Who will be shown last? The Kansas City player or staff, or Philly's player or staff?
Kansas City.
All right. How many times will Roger Goodell be shown? Over 1.5 times or under 1.5 times?
Over.
All right.
Because are we talking about the beginning of the game, pre-game festivities as they're doing the opening, or are we talking about in general Roger Goodell appearances, because if Roger Goodell presents the goddamn Lombardi trophy and that's part of the bet, he's definitely getting at least one. They'll probably show him one other time.
It's not specified. So you make a good point. I would think that with Lombardi trophy, you're guaranteed one.
Minimum one.
So you're going to show him more than once.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
like if it's including the entirety of the broadcast, hammer the over.
Now, how many times will Tom Brady be mentioned? Over or under 1.5 times?
Over. He just retired, we think.
So, well, which mom or wife will be shown first? Donna Kelsey, the mother of Travis and Jason Kelsey, or Brittany Mahomes?
Kelsey. It's going to be Kelsey.
Too many people hate Brittany Mahomes.
Exactly. The vitriol around Brittany Mahomes is just not going to play well.
Mm-hmm. What will be said or shown first during the broadcast? These are 3 options here. A video of the Philly special, a video or picture of the Rocky statue, or a video or picture of cheesesteaks.
Rocky. I'm going
Rocky there too. So the Philly special is -160. The Rocky statue is +165, and a cheesesteak is +240.
There's just so many ways that you can shoehorn in that fucking Rocky statue that it makes the most sense for me, because you could literally put that in any segment. Like, you just insert that bitch when you're talking about Philly.
All right. Which Chiefs fan will be shown first? And these are all famous fans. Jason Sudeikis is +105. Paul Rudd +175. Rob Riggle +350. And Henry Winkler +500. Happy days.
Man. I like the Winkle play there at the +500. I don't love the bet, but I love the odds. Jason Sudeikis is fantastic, but Paul Rudd, I think, is the biggest of those stars. So I would go Paul Rudd.
All right. Which Eagles fan will be shown first? Bradley Cooper at -175. Rob McElhenney at +225.
Mm-hmm.
My pick, Kevin Hart at +400. And Pink at +650.
Also, Kevin Hart. I'm surprised that Mike Trout is not featured in that bet, because that is where I could see Mike Trout being. There's no fucking way he gets a commercial now.
All right. Will a clip or picture of Andy Reid competing in the punt pass kick contest be shown?
100%.
Yeah. And no is +120. Yes is -150. All right.
You're getting plus odds on the punt pass kick video. I like that.
You're getting plus odds on no.
Oh, okay. I thought you were saying that I got plus odds on the fucking that it's going to be shown. It's like, I'll hammer that.
-175 that it will be shown.
Okay, yeah, it's definitely going to be shown.
150 that it'll be shown.
It's definitely going to be shown.
Mm-hmm. The city that Joe Biden says first during his pregame interview: Philadelphia or Scranton?
So maybe I don't know the thing behind the Scranton.
He's from Scranton.
Growing up in Scranton, I would love the Philadelphia. Yeah, Scranton.
Me and Corn Pop used to love to sit back and watch the Super Bowl in Scranton.
Listen, I don't want to get political, but my goodness, not.
All right. The length of Joe Biden's pregame interview will be under or over 4.5 minutes.
Under.
You can't let the guy talk.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Listen, I swing no way, right or left. I hate all of politicians, but there's no way that you can allow him to talk for that long without just.
The only way that I think that he goes over is if he starts to ramble.
Massive edit. There's going to be massive edits. It's not a live interview, is it?
Fuck if I know. The player that Joe Biden will mention first in his pregame interview: Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes?
He's from Scranton. He'll talk about the Philly guys.
Also, I think it's an easier name for him to say, Hurts versus Mahomes.
Yeah.
All right. What will Joe Biden say first during his pregame interviews? The word jobs, Super Bowl, Ukraine, Build Back Better, or diversity?
Oh my God. Where are you pulling these prop bets from? Do I want to know?
News.com.
Okay. I was like, is this the alt-right putting out fucking lines betting on Joe Biden? I don't know, man. Like, what were the fucking options again?
Jobs at plus 115, Super Bowl at plus 145, Ukraine at plus 450,
Super Bowl. That's got to
Build
be
Back
like
Better 475.
I'm going to believe that for the first 54 seconds he is going to stay on topic and talk about the Super Bowl.
All right. Will Kevin Burkhardt or Greg Olson mention the odds of the game?
Greg Olson, who, by the way,
It's just a yes or no.
Oh,
either one of them.
Yeah. I think I would say yes. They'll talk about the odds. And by the way, Greg Olson might be the best broadcaster that we have. All the things that we thought we were going to get with Tony Romo, Greg Olson is all of those things and more. He's so fucking fantastic. The fact that there was even a conversation about him losing a spot to Tom Brady, I think is asinine. I understand Tom Brady's a massive name. Greg Olson is the best like live broadcaster that either network, NFL, CBS, Fox, whoever, he's the best that they got right now. He should have a full-time position and he should get the keys just like Tony Romo got because he's better than Tony Romo.
Yeah. And it's actually good odds for that. I would think that they're going to mention the odds as well. They're going to say something like they're 1.5 point favorites, something like that. The odds for yes that they'll mention it is plus 275, and that they won't mention it is minus 450. So very surprising. I don't know if there's a precedent behind this, but obviously if the odds are
the NFL is in the gambling business now, though. Like everybody's going legal. The NFL's in the gambling business. We're gonna see more fucking FanDuel, DraftKings, and all of those other sports betting commercials more than we'll probably see any other type of brand, food, drink, regardless. We're going to see so many motherfucking sports betting apps that they're going to talk the odds.
Yep. This one seems like a pretty easy one, but will the Kelsey brothers hug after the final whistle on the field?
Yes.
Yeah, I would assume so. What will happen during the first, happen first in the broadcast? I think there's a typo in this. But what will happen first? Will the Kelsey brothers be shown, or will either Kelsey parent be shown first?
The brothers would be shown before the parents.
I would think so.
We're going to talk players.
When will Donna Kelsey be shown after the first kickoff? First quarter, fourth quarter, second quarter, or third quarter?
First. It's the first, man. Like they're going to show her immediately. Like it's a big deal. Like this is. So I made the thing like, okay, we got 2 black quarterbacks starting in a Super Bowl for the first time. That is fucking awesome. The brothers thing, it's been a whole deal. But the fact that we actually have 2 literal brothers playing in this game it's really kind of a cool storyline that the NFL has tried to kind of run with. And I think that that's going to be a big part of it.
Sure. And then this is also the last one that I got here. And then I think we can get into our actual picks for the game. And this seems like a layup. Will DeMar Hamlin be said or mentioned during the broadcast? Yes is minus 250. No is plus 175.
I would say I'm actually leaning towards no.
Okay.
Just because there's not a connection with either of these 2 teams. I don't know. Maybe
it's during the broadcast, and I feel like during the broadcast, if we're talking pregame type stuff, that he'll probably get mentioned.
Okay.
All right. And with that, we can jump into our final picks here for who's going to win this Super Bowl tomorrow.
All right. So we went through our position breakdown. You guys have kind of probably been able to gauge, I'm on the Eagles in this one. I think they have been one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NFL for the majority of the year. There is no doubt in my mind that Pat Mahomes is the best quarterback. Quarterback is the most important position in all of football. I just think that the Eagles have a better team. I think they will be able to scheme some interesting things. They're going to have to do some really good game planning for Travis Kelce, but Travis Kelce is the guy that you have to stop. If they are able to find a way to stop him, I like what the rest of the defense can do to slow down this passing attack. We talked about the depth up front. We talked about their guys out on the edge. This entire game is going to hinge on the production of Travis Kelce in this game for the Chiefs. I think the Eagles will be able to not slow him down. They will be able to do enough to put themselves in position to win. So I'm going to ride with the Eagles, and I would take the cover. I think they win this thing by 3 points. So I'm going Eagles minus the, was it 1.5?
Yep. Yeah, and I'm actually in the pretty much exact same boat. I'm seeing the Eagles win this. I'm seeing them win by 3. I will take the Eagles to cover. Chiefs are a great team. Eagles are a very, very good team too. To me, it comes down to 2 very good teams, and then you just match up the quarterbacks. Mahomes is a little bit better, but I think that the scheme of the Eagles is a little bit more dynamic. And I'm leaning towards the Eagles on this one, even though Eagles did have the easiest record or easiest schedule in the NFL this season, which made their record look a lot better. And we saw a little bit of issues.
We saw some hiccups for sure from this team.
Going down towards the end of the stretch there. But I think that right now they are slightly better as a roster, but schematically, I like the way they're schemed up. Then again, you can't ever really count out Andy Reid.
Yeah, Andy Reid with time to prep is very, very tough to beat. I think the Eagles are a better team. I think the coaching edge goes to Andy Reid. It will be a close game. I expect this to be a very fun, exciting Super Bowl. But I do think the Eagles edged this one out just barely with a field goal.
Me as well. All right, man. That's the Super Bowl show.
That was it, brother. It was a good day. We went a little long, but hey, we covered a lot of prop bets. We had guest Jacob Roach, who was fantastic. I'm very appreciative to him for coming on. Hopefully we see those guys some more. Both those guys over at the Barking Browns, Nick Carnes and Jacob Roach, are fantastic. So thanks to those guys. Thanks to everybody who tuned in, who watched, commented, and get ready for a badass day tomorrow. I'm so fucking busy. I have so much homework to do. I have to fix up this house for people to come over. Graydon has sectional wrestling tomorrow. We did not talk youth sports. It's all right. We'll get into that later on throughout the off season. But I'm pumped. This is a whole year that we have been, kind of counting down to. We had great picks throughout the season. We've been in the playoffs, but I really am pumped for tomorrow's game, and I'm ready to move into off-season stuff once we get this over, because man, we have a good goddamn time when we're starting to break down some draft prospects. So Evo, I want to say thank you to you. It's been a long season. We've been killing it. You have been killing it. So I appreciate all your work, and I'm excited for the next few months to see kind of where this thing goes.
Yeah, me too, man. And thanks for going through another NFL season with me. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of good times going over weekly what we're seeing in one of the wilder NFL seasons that I've witnessed. A bit of a programming note. I think we're looking at taking a bit of a break here between the Super Bowl and our next.
So we might be. There's a chance we're going to be off next week or the week after. There's a possible interview that we will have, and maybe we will do a show next week and then take a break after. But either next week or the week after, we will be off. We will take a break. We will reset, and we will get ready for the off season. But we do have a potential interview next week. Maybe we'll push it back a couple weeks. But guys, stay tuned on the Twitter at Lineman Lounge. You can check out the Facebook group. That's going to be Lineman Lounge there as well. Listen anywhere, and we'll make sure that we have you guys up to date. If we're off next week, if we're going to run one show next week for the interview, but guys, we appreciate you. We love you. We're going to be back soon, whether it's next week or 2 weeks from now, but I'm going to get the fuck out of here. I got so much shit to take care of. Evo, appreciate you guys. I love you. I'm getting out of here.
All right.
See you.
Welcome to the Lineman Lounge, hosted by Mike and Evo, calling their shots and being outlandish.
Breaking news from Lineman Lounge. My fantasy football team just took a huge fucking hit. And that also makes it even more likely that the Raiders are going to beat the Ravens on Monday night. Le'Veon Bell is about to be your starter. Latavius Murray is going to go there as well. Jesus, fuck my ass.
Get ready for the thickest podcast in the game. Coming to you from